We're
live, aren't we?
We are live. We are live. And it's working. See, no tech issues today, Frank. I'm happy.
Oh, how good's that?
We started live a bit early, 3 minutes early, but we're ready to rumble. I'm excited. I'm pumped. This is a big session. This is another session, another investing news session, Wednesday night. Client property. Every fortnight, we are going to be bringing the same thing to you. Now, why are we bringing the same thing to you? Because every single time we bring it, it is of very, very high value. So we thought, let's just keep producing the same thing for you. Every week, we will be presenting you a new client, their property, what they've achieved, what's next, 20 minutes of just jam-packed, pure value. How are you, my friend?
Very, very well. Been a busy day, busy week. Seems like it's getting busier and busier. Market's getting harder and harder, but it's been good.
It is. It is. While we have 2 minutes, Frank, I'm going to pester you. Why is the market getting harder and harder?
So, just quite interesting. I was doing a bit of research yesterday in regards to just looking at listing levels for the rental market.
Yep.
And the whole of Australia, the rental market has dropped. The listing levels have dropped a fair bit since 1 year ago. It's roughly, off the top of my head, it was like well over 1,000, a couple thousand properties. There's less on the market. So it's like, the rental crisis that we're having over 500,000 people have migrated to Australia in the last 12 months, which is huge. But with that as well, we're seeing sales listings as well drop off in particular regions.
Yep.
We're seeing that a lot in more, your regional towns, but as well more in your Queensland, Brizzy, Adelaide, and Perth markets. But then as well in some of the regional towns in those states and other states as well, especially New South Wales and Vic. There's been some big internal migration. So what that means is other people leaving other parts around Australia and migrating to a new town. And regional Victoria is the number one driver for that. So other people leaving other parts around Australia, migrating to a new region for work or whatever it may be. And that's having a massive effect on the property market, where you're starting to see the market grow dramatically. Which is good. But of course, you've got to pick those markets.
Did you say people moving from Victoria to other states? Is that what you're saying? Or into regional Victoria?
Yeah, so other people around. So Australian citizens, not overseas migrants, are migrating from wherever they're living into majority of them migrating into regional Victoria. Has been one of the big hotspots. Yeah, so places like Geelong, Bass Coast is probably one of the big ones.
Awesome.
So you're seeing that, and plus, of course, then there's regional Queensland, which is a big hotspot at the moment, and regional. There's some regional spots in WA that are gone ballistic as well. So so we're seeing a massive crisis from a rental and a sale perspective. We are seeing the market starting to pick up in some areas like Melbourne and Sydney, which is quite good to see. But it's getting tougher and tougher.
Awesome. We're right on 6 o'clock. The viewers are on. No tech issues. I haven't got a cough this week. Let's get into it. Let's rock and roll. All right. So, if you weren't with us last week, or last fortnight, excuse me, this is a fortnightly session. The reason we are bringing this to you every fortnight is because, one, provides massive value to everyone in this group. Two, a lot of you are going to watch what we present to you on these calls and on these lives. You're going to be able to take a lot of the information and implement it yourself. And then three, 99% of the people that are on this group will never work with Fresh Start. The 1% that do, you'll look at this, you'll say, that's way too bloody hard. And you're going to say, guys, help us. For the 99% of you, enjoy the freebies. Let's rock and roll. This fortnight, we are talking about who we like to call our poster clients, and I'll explain why we call them our poster clients. Amy and Nathan. Amy and Nathan, very young couple from Geelong. You just mentioned that. Got two beautiful young kids. And they purchased a property for $443,000 in Queensland pretty much a year ago now, 12 months ago, 13 months ago. As you can see, pretty clean property. I absolutely stuffed it up. I didn't create the suspense. Pretty clean property, 443K. Within the last 12 months, the property has grown by just above 16%, which is pretty epic. That's what it's done in 12 months. The property's now worth 515K, which is awesome. This is how we presented the property, how we always present the property. And as you can see, property's relatively new, 2006 build, 490 square meters, almost a 6% rental yield, which again is pretty awesome. I won't go through the folder analysis. I'm going to let Frank talk about that. But as you can see here, they've actually purchased 2 properties in the last 12 months, but we're just highlighting property number 1. Property grew by 16%. Absolutely epic. Here is a photo of us, Amy and Nathan, and also another couple. The reason why I said Amy and Nathan are our poster clients is because they've probably referred the most amount of clients to Fresh Hut. I think they've referred maybe 4. Okay, cool. There you go. Mum, Dad, there. Yeah. We're running through it.
I think there's 5.
I think 5, 6, whatever it is. So to say that they've had a very successful year, they've purchased 2 properties. One of their properties has done more than 15% growth in the year. Here's a little post and us all celebrating on the group, which is just absolutely awesome. That's their property. But that's just boring. That's just the intro into what I really want to talk about. And what I really want to talk about is not me talking. That is your job, Frank. Why did we select that particular asset? If you want to talk about the region itself, if you want to talk about all of your things, go nuts. And if you want to share, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, so look, I think with Townsville, as you can see, leave it sharing. I think it's good to have it up there while people have a look at it. Townsville is one of the biggest regional towns in Australia. It's got the biggest infrastructure pipeline in Australia at the moment. A lot of money getting spent in the region, and for the size of the region, it's the biggest. So when I say that, for the size of the economy of just over 200,000 people, and the amount of money getting spent, it is the biggest capital expenditure for that region. It's probably going to be one of the fastest growing regions in the next 5 years, I believe, because of what's going on there. Now, it's a very diverse economy for some people that don't know. It does have, the Defence Force, educational sector is very big there as well. The healthcare sector, of course, public admin, retail. It does have big on construction, and as well as tourism also. So it's very diverse. It's not one-sided. It does have a bit of mining as well, like, in the renewable energy sector as well. It's got 2 universities up there as well. It's a big population. It's been growing a lot from a tourism perspective in the last 10 years. It's really expanded. It's Horizon, where, above Townsville, we do have Cairns, and Cairns is a great property market as well. Cairns has always been like the number 1 place for tourism. Townsville's starting to follow that trend as well. So a lot of people are coming to Townsville. I think just over 500,000 people are coming to visit Townsville every single year. So that is a positive thing as well. So that's what, that's why we, are attracted to these certain areas, regional towns like this, because of, the powerhouse of the economy, which is very diverse. So hopefully that there makes sense.
Love it. I won't actually go to that. In regards to the asset itself, if we just go back here and just have a look at the folders. Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, while you bring that up, you can jump in some of the folders, up to you. But I guess the reason why we like this property in Curwin's in Townsville, Curwin's the second biggest suburb, actually. So one of the biggest suburbs in Townsville. But the pocket of where we purchased this property had a low level of renters in that area, which is a positive thing, and very low level of public housing as well, 0% public housing. People get caught up, and for people, the viewers watching this, they hear about Townsville and go, oh, it's bad with crime rate. It's dangerous. Yes, it is in certain areas, of course. I wouldn't say it's dangerous where you can't walk down the street, but of course, there's certain suburbs that have a high crime rate. Curwin is not one of them. But as well, we have zero public housing in that pocket of area where their property is located, which is something that we look at when we're buying property in a suburb, because we can get down to the suburb level, but as well break down the streets. So that's very important. And then the income levels are pretty strong in that area. Majority of the people are earning around that 78 to 104 grand a year in income, so which is awesome. So that's why, of course, there's always good parts of every suburb, which you always have to make sure of the good parts and bad parts you don't want to be stuck in, because of, you're going to get bad tenants. And of course, when the market changes as well, the good properties always outweigh the I guess the properties in the poorer regions, if that makes sense, because of, maybe they're back onto a freeway, maybe they're back onto into like a forest guard, back of a forest or something like that, or maybe wherever it is, it's not really in a good pocket. So that there is very important to understand that.
Gotcha. Frank, I mean, I'm scrolling through here as you're just talking about all the infrastructure that's going on in the regions. Take a look at the level of actual infrastructure that is going on, right? This is the transport sector, millions and hundreds of millions, billions of dollars that are being spent. Education, like you mentioned, $1.29 billion expansion, $5.4 billion in regards to, what is even that, Frank? A dam.
Yeah, a whole bunch of things. They've even got this plan for the Defence Force. What's happening is they're spending, it's a $2.2 billion project for the Singaporean training facility. And there's about 14,000 people, soldiers from Singapore, coming over for training every year. So that is a lot of people. And of course, they're doing all sorts of things with the Defence Force. So that's great for tourism as well when you're having that many people come in. And there's like a $1.6 billion port upgrade as well. So the port is a big contributor to the economy as well. So when I say a port upgrade, that means a lot of things. There's going to be more trucks driving there for containers, more tourism as well, because maybe there's tourism ships and things like that as well. And so that's a very positive thing. On some of this report here, you're going to see as well as a lot of money getting spent on resorts and things like that as well. There's the Villas Resort Casino there that's getting expanded to about $80 million getting spent there. Some of these things here, they don't do that for no reason. In some other areas as well, there's like new golf courses and things like that. The big money getting spent to do some of these things. They don't just do that for no reason. So we are seeing some strong population growth, and we're seeing some strong money getting spent here for a number of reasons.
Can I ask, Frank? I mean, where's the golf range? We might have to go head down there. But can I ask, when it says, just for the viewers, under construction and proposed construction starting X, is there something that we should be looking out for there? And what do you look out for when you're doing your research into a region?
So when it's under construction, it's a good sign, because it's actually under construction right now and they started the project. When it's been approved, that's just saying it's been approved by the government or the council or the state government to get this work sorted and approved to get started to go on the way of construction. And then, of course, there's sometimes it has, there's completed as well. We're in that report, we'll have it as completed where it's been done as well.
Yeah. And how about proposed? Do you take that as concrete information, or no, not necessarily?
Not necessarily until it's start under construction. Same with the approval. Of course, it's always good to know that they're approved and it's going to go ahead. But of course, they can always pull the pin as well. So when you want to look at this, you want to look at under construction, and that's going to give you a good indication that this is a positive thing and it's going ahead.
Cool. I love it. Frank, you mentioned something before. I'd love for you to be able to get up Kerwin and what you were talking about regarding the public housing and whatnot. I don't know if you've got it in front of you, but I'd love to see if you could just bring it up and just, what we usually do, run through. Is there any chance we can have a look at that and just to see and show the viewers what it looks like?
Yep, let me bring that up.
Thank you.
Share screen.
And while you're going for that, Anthony Serby just mentioned, what about manufactured home parks?
Manufactured home parks, is that, if you can elaborate a little bit more, is that as in parks are from the council, or that would be nice. But here's the area. So while he's, I'll wait for him to respond. I can't see him, to be honest. if he is responding or not, because we're on a different server. But
I'm looking at it. So Anthony, if you get a chance, just elaborate on that one, mate. Go for it.
So as you can see, there's no public housing in this pocket of area where we are in Kerwin.
So sorry, Frank, what are we on here? What are we on to look at this information?
Micro burbs. So you can subscribe. It's actually a paying subscription. So you got to pay to use it, of course. Generates reports. It gives you data from a suburb level and breaks it down into segments, as you can see. So this pocket here in this red square, that's where Amy and Nathan's property is. Okay. They're very close here to the golf course, which is near the primary area or the best market in Kerwin, where the houses are the most expensive. And so we're very close to that. So 0% public housing, where the average is 5% in Townsville in that area. If you have a look at the income levels just here, as you can see here, they get steeper towards around 19% of the people in that pocket. They're earning 78 to 104 grand a year, which is fantastic. And then, of course, we've got 18% of those people are professionals. We do have 14% are tradies, 16% are personal services. So it breaks it down to what industry they're working in. And so that's a great thing, because then you can kind of understand the type of people that are going to come into this area and rent your property. Okay. And which is a good sign. So it gives us, nice confidence in that.
Awesome. Love it. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Now, I don't know if Mr. Anthony's come back, but let me just finish it off, because we are at the final stage of these. And as I said, 10 minutes is exactly what I want to see. 10 to 15 minutes.
What I will jump in and say is internal migration is probably one of the biggest things to look at from when you have a look at a market, if it's growing, if it's going to grow and going to become a hotspot. Why internal migration? I always talk about this is because you're getting Australian citizens leaving their current area where they're living and migrating to a new town or city. And so, of course, they've got money, where people from overseas that migrate and become immigrants and come into Australia. For the first 5 years, they can't afford to buy a family home. Okay. That's about 60 or 70% of those people. So not all of them. So, of course, majority of them are going to be renting, which is, of course, it's a good thing for a landlord who's going to, target that rental market. But from a capital growth perspective, they're not going to really affect that market. Now, internal migration, it's the other way around. You got Australian citizens migrating, selling up their old houses, migrating to a new town.
Yep.
Now, the internal migration pattern is stronger in Townsville than what it is in Sydney and in Melbourne currently. Okay, wow. It's why?
Wow, I said wow.
I said why, yeah. And so, that makes that a very fast-growing region in Townsville, of course. Of course, they might be migrating from whoever knows where around Australia. And, of course, they're professionals and working in all different types of industries. And so it's very diverse, and that there brings a lot of positive prospects to Townsville, but as well the property market as well.
Cool. Love it. They've bought 2 properties in the last year. What is next for them? What's the game plan?
So game plan at the moment, we're looking at refinancing because their properties have grown in value. Okay. So for people listening or watching, when your property does grow in value, your loan to value ratio changes. So what I mean by that is you buy a property with a 10% deposit, you've got a 90% loan. Okay. And let's just make it easy. Buy a property for 500K, the loan's 400,000. As soon as the property grows from 500K to 600K, even though you haven't paid down the debt, the loan to value ratio will change. Okay. So with that, we're looking to refinance, lower their interest rates. So then the property is not going to cost them as much to hold. Okay. And then we're looking at refinancing, taking some equity out. Okay. And using that to get into another investment property. Okay. So they've got 3 properties. They've got one in Geelong. They've got one in Townsville, another one in WA. And we'll be going again this year. Okay. Which will be awesome for their 4th investment property. And that will probably be, depending on when they're ready, might be going back into Queensland, into another region, or we might be going to another in another state to try and minimise their land tax as well, and be quite crafty with that.
Yep. Awesome, love it. That last slide just says your turn, which doesn't necessarily need to be your turn. That's it, guys. That is the session. I hope that was of value. We'll just have a look. Mr. Anthony hasn't got any questions. 15 minutes, 16 minutes. We can all now go tune in and go have dinner. Frank, that was awesome. If you've got anything else you want to mention, anything else at all, other than that, it was another cracking session, my friend.
I will touch on a couple of things. Like since say the last 10 years in Townsville, there has been a big shift in the economy. So what I mean by that is we're looking at what sectors are driving the economy. Healthcare has improved dramatically. Public admin has improved as well. The professional services also. We've had the transportation, warehousing has as well, accommodation and tourism, retail trades. So like these sectors here, it's improved the economy and creating more jobs as well. And so when people ask me about, and I want to talk about not just Townsville, I want to talk about as well WA. When people ask about WA and they go, oh, is there going to be the same thing with the boom and the bust? And my answer is always no, because they've changed a lot since then. The economy, in WA, they've changed it a lot to make sure, they can make it diverse and not just be relied on one sector. And that's very important as an investor, because you don't want to be relying on one or two sectors, because if something happens, they close down a mine or stop tourism in that area because of a pandemic, those areas suffer, of course. But the areas that are diverse, of course, don't suffer because there's multiple other jobs available. So that's quite an important part and something to focus on as someone out here trying to do it themselves listening to this. That's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice when it comes to research to look at, because that there is going to make you or break you pretty much.
5 economic drivers larger than the state average, what you continue to refer to. 5 economic drivers larger than the state average. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's a lot of clients do get a bit turned off by investing in regions that have gone through bad periods. Probably a good reminder is if you bought a property in 2019 to now in Melbourne or Sydney, your property's probably gone like this, if not down. So that is a bad period as well. But because it's a capital city, people tend to forget about it. Every region will go through its periods, right? But I love it. Awesome. Frank, that's it. 20 minutes was promised.
I want to say one more thing because I'm a bit of a chat.
Keep firing away. Keep going.
As well as what you just said, people get a bit caught up on regional towns. Don't be scared of regional towns, because people were, if you go back 2012 to 2017, 18, Melbourne and Sydney were going ballistic, the market. You had prices probably triple, nearly quadruple during that time. What did Brisbane do during that time? It grew like 1 to 2% in the space of 5 to 6 years, from 2012 to 2017, 18. Okay, and what's quite funny is people want to invest in Brisbane now and in Perth, and we get a lot of people, and they get that funny bug is like, oh, because it's a capital city. Capital cities are, the consistent markets, consistent growth. But then I go, well, what did Brisbane do back in 2012 to 2018? I go, what did it do? It grew 1 to 2% during that time. So every market goes through its cycle. Melbourne is not performing at all at the moment. If anything, it's gone. The prices are lower than what they were at the COVID peak. And so with that, if people bought during COVID, they're actually losers at the moment, because there was a lot of speculation and prices were going, 20%, 30% over in just a short period of time. Okay, so you need to look at metrics or look at cycles. And of course, every market goes through ups and downs. Don't just think it's regional towns are not stable markets. That's just a bunch of BS. So you need to look at historical data.
I'm going to jump in here, Frank, because you did say something very interesting, and not to be fearful of regional towns. Here's a few regional towns that performed back in 2002 to 2008. As you can see here, 200%. That's not a doubling, right? 100% is a double. So there's a tripling of value in the regions. Right now, a lot of these regions were not diverse at that time, and were relying on a lot of just, one sector, two sectors. So they actually had excellent growth, but then kind of dropped off and kind of even went backwards as well. But have a look at some of the regions in the last 5 years. Have a look at what some of these regions have done, right? These are all regional towns, right? I can tell you now, I've got a property in Bundaberg. Frank, you've got it's not really a regional town, but you've got a property in Ipswich. We purchased properties in Toowoomba, Tamworth, Wagga Wagga. Some of these properties that we've purchased, when you see 100% growth, that's a doubling of value within 5 years. Your property has doubled in value. My property is teething on doubling. Mr. Miles' property would be very close to now starting to double in value within a 5-year period. Don't discount regional cities. Don't think that capital cities are the only way to go. I thought I'd finish on that.
If you go back to that one, that 2002 to 2008, during that time, it would have been good if we had it there, but we don't. I think Melbourne grew 60%, and I think Sydney grew 40% during that time. So those markets didn't perform at all. So every market, like I said, it goes through ups and downs. There's cycles. Okay, it's kind of secular of how it works, or cyclical, I should say. With all the markets, of course, things will change. They'll be a little bit different from what happened in the past, but very similar. So yeah, things have changed a lot since then.
You'll notice at the top of this, it says mistake number 1, only invest in your backyard. I put that down to the first mistake that most investors make, and probably the biggest mistake. They only look at where they live, and then they discount every other region apart from a capital city. Then you want to go into the stats. There's a reason why 0 point whatever it is have more than 4 properties, which is absolutely ludicrous. Frank, we can keep waffling all night. I'm going to eat dinner. You go enjoy. Thank you, everyone, for staying and watching and asking questions. Anthony, if you want to flick us a message, mate, we'll come back to you on whatever the question is. But thank you, guys. Have a beautiful night. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
See you guys.
And, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.